Welcome back to BF fans. As always, this is your tips, tricks, techniques, and strategies to play this game and go and beyond. As always, if you're a senior player, take a seat, have some popcorn, enjoy a cold beverage, and help those who really need some help here, right? And if you happen to be small, and you happen to be a medium player, and you're just jumping in to learn some tips and tricks, welcome. You can join the journey with us as we journey this together. Now, just to deep dive and go straight into this. Today, I actually want to talk about equipment, because equipment actually determines a lot within this game. How much damage you do, how much bonuses you get, what things you get for developing your resources, and so forth, right? The bonuses affect differently based on the weaponry that you have. However, do you really know which ones are more important and which ones don't have that much validation and you don't really need? So today I'll deep dive and go through a little bit. So for those who are new, even those who are senior, you have a better understanding of what you should use, what you shouldn't use, and my own perspective. Now, if you do have a different view, again, like always, I'm happy to discuss. Just leave a comment down below and we can go through it. Let's get straight to it. First step is first, just go to the blacksmith. Going to the blacksmith, as you already guys are well aware, you're able to craft weaponry that's all you need for all your captains. However, each type of equipment that you build and create within your blacksmith area will provide different bonuses, varying in what you're after. The most common ones that you guys are well aware will be the Guardsman's Courage equipment and the Specialist Authority equipment, really widely used. Besides that, you'll be using Honors Rules equipment because of course that increases your resources, your stay-at-home crew, while also having Tomb Raider gear, which is a cost for Raider, it costs your Tomb Raider gear, for a cost for your Carter, and then it costs the Swift Wayfarer gear when you're collecting resources either on the map or even when you're gathering resources from other players and gaining silver when you're doing your silver hunting, right? But however, I want to ask you a very simple question. You guys are well aware that all the first basic items, especially the first level equipment, is really easily gained. All that, of course, as you guys are well aware, and for those who are, I'm just going to say this, but those who've been playing for a while, even when you just start, you know the majority of that really kicks off with having Carter. The more crypts and stuff that you collect with this particular captain allows you to be able to gain the pieces that you need in order to create the equipment required for your captains, right? So therefore, it is very important to make sure your Carter is always at a high level because crypts are important. Now you know that. One common question that gets raised over and over again is tar. Maintaining the different tar levels from your regular tar, your rare tar, and your epic tar, right? Because when you're small, you guys are well aware, it's not very easily obtained based on your clan, and especially when you start out, tar seems to run out very quickly. Here's the thing, guys, you need to remember. You can rely on Carter. He is a great captain, and yes, he does rely heavily on you having that tar for him to do the job, but really it's not the smartest way to play. What you should be doing is actually attacking citadels and heroics, because by doing so, you're making sure that you're really benefiting the most out of it, and then you still be getting chests for the clan. By doing so, you also save more tar, so when it comes down to it, you're able to use Carter to go collect the pieces that you need. You still need to collect crypts. Everyone needs to do that, and by doing so, you're only going to benefit yourself because your equipment needs, in particular, material in order to build itself, goes with enchantments and everything else, because if you don't do it, then you just can't build it, right? So there are requirements, but it's not hard to get because, especially the first easy level equipments, all you need to do is collect just the usual crypts and you're going to get it. It gets more difficult based for tar level, that is, only because if you're going after rare and epic tar, it may not be so easily gained. But let me tell you this, when you get into a stronger clan, as you grow bigger and you're able to defeat epics, you're going to gain epic tar very easily because epic tar is most easily obtained during the epic tournaments. And that's what you want to target out later when you're in the larger range, because these give you the better equipment, and that's what everyone's after, killing epics, right? And besides that, rare tar, of course, you open up those rare crypts, and you give yourself the opportunity to be able to open those areas that you need to go into, right? Because let's take a look, guys, yeah? Your general crypts that you guys are well aware already, and you guys know this just as good as I do, of course, is your rare crypts, and you guys know that. You've got your epic crypts. Of course, they all come in different shapes and sizes, but for this instance, for example based, this is to show you, got your cursed citadels, you've got your common base crypts, then of course you've got your heroics. All these are important to remember to take advantage of, and why we're looking at Khan in particular, because he really is the building blocks in order to get the equipment that you're after. That's why we're having that quick discussion about him first, before we deep dive back into the equipment and gear. So now returning back to our blacksmith area, And yes, say you did manage to gather a lot of resources, eventually you will always gain, you're going to get an overly abundance of material. You'll be able to build equipment very easily because you'll be collecting crypts on a regular day-to-day basis because there is your clan basic requirements, right? Usually most clans tend to advise all their main details on clan descriptions and message of the day in what it's required to do within the clan requirements for your members, clan to clan, right? And other times they have private chats where they will discuss other things where necessary. But usually that's where it determines where you have to get a certain amount of chests every day to be able to meet your requirements to be able to build the gear that you're after. So going back to the equipment wise and what's so important, what things you really should be focusing on, there are things you need to understand very, very thoroughly. To be honest with you, skillful engineering equipment based for your Captain Bran, to be honest with you, is not important. I'll get the items anyway, and as you can see, I've got my gold class wear equipment gear in here, and of course his techno bomb because it allows him to, it makes his catapults more stronger and hit down walls even faster, but he's by far probably the most useless captain in the game, and there isn't a single person out there that wouldn't say otherwise. Unless there's an organized attack where you're destroying maybe a friendly capital on purpose, because therefore you're able to gather all the resources, then maybe having him, to be able to make sure you destroy those walls 110%, especially when it's fully mastered, then there'll be a reason why you have Bran. But besides that, you've got other units there, you've got mercs that kind of do that level for you, so it's actually not necessary. So you can actually take his resources and use it for other things. It's just unnecessary. I'll still build the gear anyway because it looks nice to have, and if you're trying to do that for spec wise, then that's fine. But honestly, he's by far one captain that you should ignore the build, and especially if you're new and still learning, avoid it. It's unnecessary, and if you happen to come back to it later, then do it. So going back in here again, you're going to find that you're going to be breaking a lot of the Garmin's courage gear and special authority gear. The durability of your equipment isn't exactly that loaded compared to your equipment that you will gain during seasonal events, which has like about 1006% durability, which allows it to have a long-lasting period. So if you just take a quick note, for example, if you look at the gear here, you can see the durability is at 36. That's kind of normal, and this is kind of the level of where what it means for those who don't understand it. Durability is the long-lasting of how long your weapon can handle after being used multiple times, but that multiple times won't last forever. That's why it's so essential to gain more materials for your equipment, so therefore you're able to create more, and you're going to do it anyway because it is a requirement by a clan to be able to gain a set amount of chests on a regular basis. So you're going to be alright regardless, and your teammates who are doing their part will therefore help you out, and you'll be helping them as well. Now, why I kind of said specifically when it comes to Ragnarok gear, and I have discussed it in previous episodes, but if you can see here, it's a little bit longer, you can hold more, but these are actually special equipment, only gained during the Ragnarok tournament. And this gear is quite essential because you're going to be swapping this in and out a lot, especially during epic tournaments, because hitting harder is what it does best. Just if you read the details below very quickly, it's strength against epic monsters, chances to do double damage, and chance to do double strike to 2-2 squads. Meaning that when you're doing CP runs, or when you do epic runs alone, it's actually to do the optimum level of damage. It's like holding a mini Hercules without needing to pay for him, because this gear can be swapped in and out for all your captains where necessary if you're trying to build them. And that's something that everyone does. But unfortunately, the gear's durability has a certain range, and that does run out. So therefore, again, you're constantly building more gear as you go up. Now be wary, guys, when you build Ragnarok gear, there is a set amount of rules that you got to do. You got to get like certain stones and able to create it. And it does take time to build. So don't feel that in such a rush to gain it. Just take your time as you establish it. And that's all you really got to do. Just take your time depending on your class level that you are and build as you go. Going back to the blacksmith again, going down to crafting equipment, this is the most regular base type of equipment gear. And you guys are already well on his ruler's gear. This is the one parent gear that sometimes I see people walk in. It's usually by accident, but for those who are not aware, this actually applies more for the newer players. Don't ever use this to go marching on anything at all. Its basic tool and advantage is just like it describes here. It's used to help production of building your resources. It's here to help, construction speed, silver and food production, research speed, and that's really kind of what it's after. It's for those particular champions that are staying back home for you to be able to give you the ultimate level of production, right? That's the whole idea, to build production while you're offline and you're away. So this is when you have your shield on and you come back, your resources are gaining more because you left them at home to do that. So that's a necessity. However, you need to note that when you're having this type of gear, you need to be wary that it really is for your stay-at-home crew. Who are your stay-at-home crew for those who are new? Let me just demonstrate very quickly. These characters here, of course, is Helena of Troy, because like her abilities say, it states to upgrade food production and training troops, followed by your standard characters, which is Farron, which here upgrades its research, but because of that, most people tend to keep him at home, of course having the resource gear again, and followed by another hero, which is Aurora, because Aurora is for construction speed, and as well where she helps you build your buildings. And by doing so, these are what you call the 3 main captains that stay at home, because their task is to make sure that resources are gained and to the specific level that you need in order to be able to gain your resources. These are your stay-at-home crew guys, right? So let's go back to the equipments again, and we take a deep dive into it. Moving down from the list, it's now your Swift Wavery gear. To be honest, you're gonna find, realistically, you may not know it at the start, especially when you're small and you're still new, but this gear, you will be building a fair amount of sets for this, because this gear really is, are you optimum level for your speed? Because if you're doing silver hunting, or even when you're collecting resources alike, there are tournaments in here just like the Lava Tournament Olympus, such as the Lava Tournament Olympus, where your wavering equipment gear is essential because it allows you to collect more resources. You can have as many captains as you want, having that gear to be able to gather the lava fountain trials a lot faster than not having the equipment at all. When that happens, you also want to have Store, because Store is your man for the day, because his abilities, as it says very clearly, allows you to gather more resources quite efficiently and more effectively. So he is your man of the day that you need in order to be able to gain the resources to be at your ultimate level, because let's face it, he's, as long as you have his gear equipment based on here, which is his Mythal Pickaxe, which is pretty awesome, and his resources gear only times him up even further with his capacity to be able to gather resources. So he's an extremely necessity. And like I said in my previous videos, if you guys have been watching, he's also great for your Silver Hunter crew because he can hold more capacity. It's all about capacity. And by having this equipment, this is what I was saying before, you're gonna find that you may be building 4 sets or even more as backup, because as you gather more silver, as you attack other players, as you do this, gain more of their resources, this equipment is extremely vital for growth. So therefore, you wanna keep developing it. It's definitely a must. All right, going back again to your equipment gear, as we deep dive even further. Straight and simple, Tomb Raider gear is a requirement, because this gear is the main gear that Carter will be wearing, right? Let's face it, let's have a quick read of it. You have Crypt Exploration Efficiency, Tar Capacity, and Tar Production. You guys may complain a lot, but the more higher quality your gear is, the more you better produce from just using Carter alone. You want to upgrade Carter to a high level because he is one of those necessity captains. You definitely need him. And by having this gear, and even if you choose to have multiple, so I've seen players do this too, have multiple this gear just to make sure their tar increases, this is only going to be more efficient for you overall, but how you choose to play is your choice. Now, people tend to switch between 2 sets of gears when they play this. Either they have all their captains and their hero having full Tomb Raider gear, so therefore the tar production increases even further for you if that's what you're after, while another set of people will wear full Honors Rulers gear for their hero and captains because it upgrades full production, which is all your other resources. You have to determine, ask yourself what's more important, and to be honest, both ways is fine. Both ways is effective depending where you're at that time and level for your clan. Because let's face it, determining what your clan is, that determines what you can get, and that determines pretty much the level of efficiency of how you play, right? And it's not your fault. Sometimes it's just a matter of where you're at that current time, okay? So let's move further down. This gear here, to be honest, is essentially not all that important. The ones, look at this. Look, Emerald Guardian Grid, right, increases essentially for your melee units are not that great. Melee units is pretty by far, it's used more towards against, let's face it, when you're going against heroics. But even when against heroics, all you really need to do is, as long as you have your guardians in place, which is your core axes, or you happen to have your battle griffins, then pretty much attacking heroics becomes easy, because the most effective unit against heroics are flying base units. And you're gonna find, as long as you pretty much build your flying base units, which is either your specialists, building either your Royal Lions, or building your vultures, either tier 6 or tier 7, you'll find that these really are the units you're going to be utilizing against heroics. So it'll be your vultures, it'll be your Royal Lions, you'll be using your griffins, and you'll be using your core axes to attack heroics. That's kind of really all you need. When you reach that level, that's all you need, and you'll be able to do every single heroic within the game as you level up. So then going back to gear-wise, why I say it's not important, you can see very clearly now that upgrading melee-based thing has no real value. Because in the end of the day, If you are going against epics, then you'll be using your Ragnarok gear. If you're going against CP runs, you'll be using specialist gear. And if you're going against normal, you'll be using army-based boost gear, right? Because you don't need that. So what's the point of having Emerald Guardian gear? There is no point, so it's unnecessary to have. If you happen to be using the Path of the Skybreaker gear, now this one's a little bit different because this actually helps sky flying based units. If you read very effectively, fly unit strength, flying unit health, and strength of flight units against mounted units. The durability again is something to be worried about because you're trying to save up your gear, but if you really are kind of aiming towards that and trying to lessen your losses, sometimes having this gear full set helps out. I've seen players during my time playing when they have all their set units are based on very focusing on flying units, and by having that they also have flying based captains about to optimum their level, right? So if you're having that type of gear, then your type of captains that you'll be after are more towards in the lines of using Brunehead, because she, as you can see, upgrades flying units health and strength. She's a weaker version of using Ruzatan, because Ruzatan is essentially the legendary captain that gives a greater upgrade for health and strength. But these two are great captains to use for flying base gear, and when you have their gear, it only makes them hit harder and better. So it's not a bad thing to do if that's what you're trying to do. And of course, to make sure you better do your best, then you're going to want to arm it with an attacking base captain, and that usually is going to either be Beowulf. If it's not Beowulf, then you're going to be, of course, will be using Cleopatra. And very soon after this, we already know that once you guys, some of you are going to be coming back, you're going to be using the coolest hero, Heimdall, and his epic strength level is insane, of course with the seasonal gear that you have as well, to be able to do your best optimal level, right? Go back into the forge, into your workshop, and scrolling down again. So this Path of the Skybreaker gear is definitely something to think about. Not fully necessary, you don't need it, but if you have it, it doesn't hurt. Now here is also another effective one, which is mounted base equipment. This is quite good because if you look at such tournaments like the Tin Man event, you find that it's actually mounted units are quite effective against him, and during the early stages you might actually really want to consider it because mounted units and mercs actually do a pretty good amount of damage at the time level when you're little, and you better gain more valor for yourself, right? To think about it too, guys, it's also quite effective also in another tournament which is focuses on the Doomsday event, because mounted units are also effective, this epic beast as well. Now there are other tournaments out there similar too. It's just a matter of reading to see what their weaknesses are and be able to have the equipment based on the tournament that you're in and what you're going up against. This game really involves a lot about deciding what is the best equipment, the best captains, the heroes you want to use, but how you mix and match will vary depending on situational basis, and you have to understand what you need. So knowing that will actually allow you to perform better if you pay attention to those things. So going back to crafting equipment again, if we scroll down here, we now move on to using Stag-Guitarist Fury, and Stag-Guitarist Fury upgrades range units. This one here is not important. In fact, you can ignore this altogether, but if you choose to want to use it, you can equip it you can use this equipment based on captains like Bernard, which is your arch epic captain, and you can see that he pretty much uses he may look kind of cool, and you can use the gear you want, but frankly this equipment is unnecessary. But if you want to build it, you can, but I wouldn't do it if I were you. And besides that, you've got your legendary one, which you can build, and that next captain which focuses on archery and range, Minamoto, because Minamoto, our clear samurai here, is very focused on range. Now you can do it as well, it's kind of unnecessary, but if you want to, it's up to you. So going back to our equipment again, we're now looking into our honor science equipment, which just looks into, of course, equip efficiency. Now, a lot of you may think that between the regular gear that you have for Kata already, of course, which you guys are already well aware is the Tomb Raider equipment, which upgrades its time production, followed by should you actually get the Armor Science gear, which also looks more towards, again, epic Crypt Exploration Efficiency, Crypt March Speed and Range. The thing is here, as you can see very clearly, it doesn't focus on having that tar production at home. But it's not bad equipment because, like I said before, as you get stronger, epic tar is actually more vital than anything else. And you want to collect more of that than above everything else because you're slaying more epics. You better gain more epic based quips, which actually gains you more type of rarity items and more value for your clan as a whole. So it does become very efficient later in the game, but if you're still very small, epic tar, rare tar, those tars is not so easy to gain. So don't have too much focus on it, because what's going to happen here, you're going to end up getting into the poor range items and to the common range or even uncommon. You're not going to be able to reach the high godlike equipment, right? And to be honest, you're just going to be more wasteful, where you can actually end up using the other material to build other equipment at the time. So all I'm trying to say to you is that when you start building to this type of gear, don't be very heavy-handed on this. Just wait very patiently, because you're not going to be using it anyway. You see here, because it's very focused on epic crypts, it's not focusing on the tile production at home. And that's what you should really be focusing on when you're a smaller medium base clan, where you're not quite there yet and you need time to grow and develop, right? So if we scroll down here now, we're now looking at this particular gear. Guardian of Justice gear, to be honest with you, isn't bad equipment, but I'm more for all army boosts. So I actually would be more against this than rather with it. And my reasons are very clear here. You know, Guardians is just very narrow focus. It really focuses just Guardians alone. You're not aiming on just having one tier unit upgraded, right? And also gaining these type of trophies, the tournament trophy ones, can only be gained in CP based tournaments. If you're not one to be doing PvP, KVK, COT, and other ones that you better gain CP from, right? Which means that ultimately gaining this is going to be more difficult for you to be able to get this on a normal basis, and therefore you're not going to be able to build this gear anyway, and that becomes more wasteful. Rather, what you should be focusing on is more towards War Master and Emperor's Wrath equipment. Why between these two? Because War Master strongly focuses on specialist strength and specialist health, and of course specialist strength in battle against another player. Now this gear is more vital because in CP runs, it favors the specialist. The specialist gains you more CP, and the more you have of them, the harder you hit, the more CP you gain, and therefore achieving your CP gain based boosts and so forth in your academy, right? Because let's have a quick look at it, right? When you go to your academy, you need to focus on researching your technology. You need certain things that require very, very clear CP type resources to be able to build these things, because you're not going to be able to do any of the upgrades or any of the boosts required here that need the CP gains if you don't able to play at your ultimate level. And for those who don't know, and I have done some other episodes, but just quickly advise you, what you want to do, especially with CP gains, is that you want to use a particular hero. And if you're able to afford it, this is ultimately your best level to use, which is Ganyu, because he is your CP champion. And for a quick run through, remember this, if you are using this particular Captain Ganyu, his only ability only becomes effective and only comes into play when it's a one-on-one basis. Okay, I will repeat myself again, it's only for a one-on-one basis and a one-on-one base unit against units. He hits first. That's basically the idea of it, so you lose no troops. And a lot of players at a certain point, especially when you reach into the tier 8, tier 9 range where it's in the trillions to gain CP, it becomes more of a necessary hero to use instead of using your regular heroes, right? So let's go back into the Blacksmith again and looking at the equipment wise, what's more important. Going here, War Master Specialist is definitely a yes. So you want to build 4 sets of this if possible, because like I said, CP runs will require it. Now Emperor's Wrath is a very, very good equipment. Why? Because it upgrades army strength, army health, leadership, authority, and dominance, and essentially this equipment like a hero, which is our hero, Thetis. It provides kind of like that leadership thing, it provides that dominance, it provides you to be able to have more troops, hit more harder, upgrade your army. So even if you don't use Thetis as your main hero, you can utilize that equipment, and that kind of does the same trick too, if that's how you want to play. And this is extremely useful against not just epics, but against also other players, because it gives you more valor and it gives you more CP. Emperor's Wrath gear is definitely a yes. But again, it does require tournament trophy-based material, and you need to be able to go on those tournaments to be able to gain this. And you have to remember, where do you sit right now? What's more important for you at that current moment? So think about it first before you actually participate. Now, if we move down here, we now have the Warriors of Ragnarok gear. Understand, guys, that gaining these particular material items can only be gained within the Ragnarok tournament. If you don't go through the Ragnarok tournament, unfortunately, I'll tell you guys, you will not be able to build the gear even if you want to. All gear and equipment here can be found at the shop, and you just have the matter of looking at under equipment, and you can see here particular resources ranging from all of the different classes that you've already gained, depending where you're currently at, so you can either purchase within the shop. But again, it can only be earned during the 2-day event during Ragnarok. You cannot get this any other point, and you won't be able to build your equipment in the workshop even if you wanted to. So make sure you're worried about save up your coins when you're doing that, because it does roll over. Whatever you gain in your previous Ragnarok tournament will roll over to your following Ragnarok tournament. So a lot of people tend to save up until they gain the necessary resources to buy out enough artifacts to build their gear, and it's definitely essential to do it because you want a bunch of mini Hercules if you can. Right? Going back in here again, this last thing, unfortunately guys, is not part of the workshop. As you can see here, you're not going to see anything that's related to seasonal gear, which is completely exempted from this list of from your workshop in the forge, because you just can't build it. This is rewarded equipment. If you look at this here, you can see that the durability is 1006. When you gain seasonal items, this stuff is insane. You know, it gives you army strength, army health, army strength against players, army health against players, chance to do double damage. It's great for not only epics, but against other players, and it also lasts for a long time. Meaning once you go in the one time, you don't have to come back for a while, but you're gonna feel obligated to go into, because when you're earning gear and leveling up your captains alike when you go into seasonal, you have to go back there to only be able to build their star levels and shards, because that's the only area you can gain it. Unfortunately, you cannot gain it within your normal set playstyles within the kingdoms. It can only be earned through the seasonal event. So again, one more reminder guys, very friendly, you can only get your gear, equipment and captains through seasonal, and you can only get their shard levels through seasonal, so don't forget that. Alright, so as always, I hope that's been very informative and helped you out to understand the equipment you should be using, why they're useful and what's efficient about them. Thank you guys for watching as always. If you happen to be sharing the same content to me, reach out because I'd love to do a Zoom call with you, especially if you're using the same material. Leave a like, subscribe, put a comment down below, and I'll see you guys again in the next TBF episode. Bye now!